Hello. Let's suppose someone was at work one day, just in a hypothetical sense, and their boss came to them while that person happened to be taking a little moment to get a sip of water. And let's suppose that person's boss said, "Come into this back room with me, please." And let's suppose that person went into that back room and their boss said, "I want you to try out all of these 6 beers to see which beers we should carry in this establishment." And let's suppose that person sat down and started drinking them. And let's suppose that person made a quick dash home to eat lunch and decided to review all the beers live online while the person was reviewing them. Anyway, enough of supposition. I'm going to look at a few beers right now for no particular reason. Where did I get these beers? If I was to say that, they would start finding bodies behind the Mississippi River levee in Louisiana. So that's unimportant at this time. Here's a beer called Sobek and Set Black IPA from Finch's Beer Company in Chicago. 8% alcohol. Let's suppose, going back to our little hypothetical story, let's suppose the person said, "Yeah, but I'm at work." And let's suppose the boss said, "I don't think it'll affect your performance." Anyway, I've never heard of this beer. I've heard of Finch's. I've had a few. This is a black IPA. Let's look at it. Why don't we? 8% alcohol. If a person had dashed home from work, let's suppose they were happy that they only had to drive 1 mile back to work. Anyway, on with this real story. Not much of a head, but it's black, dark brown. The aroma is fruity in an IPA sense. Citrus. Not particularly heavily roasted barley malts. And some breadiness. I'm picking up some char. A little bit of citrus from the hop oils. The body's light to medium. The finish is semi-dry, and this beer is highly drinkable. I'm not a big black IPA person because I don't think it fits. There's no such thing as a black pale ale, right? India pale ale, but this is pretty nice. It's right up there with your other black IPAs, I guess. Maybe a little notch above them. If I was the person in that story, let's say, I would say, yeah, carry this beer. It's pretty drinkable, smooth, and 8%. Wow, better eat some lunch with that while you're drinking it. Anyway. John Courage Russian Imperial Stout revisited, 10% alcohol, good grief. From England, the original Russian Imperial Stout. Water. The aroma is incredible. It's so rich. Dark fruits, licorice, nougat, chocolate, coffee, some alcohol, in fact. The flavor, it's strong. Don't ever drink this and go back to work. Good Lord. Medium bodied, medium to heavy. This is best before August 16th of 2015. Yeah, it's got a little age, a little life left on it. Fabulous. One of the best beers on the planet. But it's no joke. You're not going to gulp this one. You're going to sip it. It's medicinal even in the flavor. Okay. Unbelievable. If I was the person in that story, I would insist. In fact, I would almost demand that that hypothetical boss carry that beer. Yeah, it's extremely expensive, and you're only getting 8.5% ounces in the bottle. But if somebody told you you could go to the moon for free, you might, or if you could go to the moon for $15, you might do it. Incredible. Oh, and it's so bitter. It's a hot. It has a strong IBU. Wow, incredible. I keep saying that because it is. Oh, White Hawk Select India Pale Ale from Mendocino, United Breweries of India, subsidiary. 7% alcohol. Good grief. Well, it is what it is. All right. It'd be a thick white head if somebody poured it in the glass all the way. It's a hazy orange appearance. Looks like an IPA, right? 7%. That's a double IPA, really, or heading toward it. Caramel, sugar, brown bread crust. You wouldn't think the IBUs would be very high on this. It's not particularly bitter. There's hop resin. There's, hop oil. It's very mellow. If a mellow, almost English style IPA is your scene, this could be one to check out. Oh yeah, you got to put this on the shelf in a single. Maybe the six. Okay, theoretically, hypothetically, pretend story. Maybe 6 packs of this didn't sell in the past. Singles would. Now there's a little dankness with Mendocino beers. I don't know if this their yeast or their hops, but Mendocino beers will take a little time. They take a little getting used to. My first impression was not positive, but I've learned to. I've kind of grown, or I should say, they've grown on me. Moving on. Wasatch Apple a Day Apple Ale. Well, what can you say about it? It exists, right? Smells like apple cough medicine. Ugh. Tastes like those Halloween candies, the little roll of the little Pez type things. Ghastly, horrible. Wasatch typically makes good stuff. This ain't one of them. Let's pretend that person told the manager, do not carry that. Have to write a written review later on for that. Medium-bodied, crisp, inferior to Red's Wicked Ale, really, if you want to be techno. 5% alcohol. Okay, inferior to Red's Apple Ale. Hey, got to call them like I see them. Moving on. A little more water. Eye of the Hawk Imperial Ale. Good grief. I've had this before. Mendocino. 8% alcohol. Are you kidding me? How does a person go to work? I mean, I'm not saying anybody's going back to work after eating this meal. I'm saying, hypothetically. Wow, that's a copper. Nice little head there. The aroma. Very subdued. Picking up caramel. Very light fruits. Sweetness. Bread crust. Oh, what a sweet beer. Almost like candy sugar, but they're not using candy sugar. Barley, water, barley malt, hops, and yeast. Fabulous. Even better than the White Hawk. And not expensive. Gotta have this in the, hypothetically, a person would have to have that in a store that sells beer. Last call. Who McKellar Beer Geek Breakfast Oatmeal Stout brewed with coffee. 11.2 ounce bottle. Well, it's getting serious now. Playtime is over. 7.5% alcohol. This is not a game. Good thing I'm eating soup. Better eat more than that. That's as black as old used up motor oil. There's a thin, it would be thick, if a person was to pour it in all the way. Thick beige head. Kind of reminds me of that Old Tom. Wow, that is almost like barley syrup. This is incredible. From Norway. If I owned a store that sold beer, I can assure you this would be on the shelf in singles and six packs. Coffee. This is a dry stout. Oatmeal, yes, it's there. The alcohol shows itself to an extent, but it's not particularly strong. Medium to heavy body. Oh, frankly, it's fabulous. Well, we had one dud, the apple a day. The apple a day keeps me away, but all the rest are sure winners to varying degrees. So I appreciate you watching this video and listening to this purely, of course, hypothetical fantasy story. I got to get off of here because I got to go back and do something, if you dig what I'm talking about. Later, folks.